and the intimate knowing is used often in the Bible.
It's not in the letters. Those letters are Aramaic. The letters are Aramaic. The definition is Greek. That's pictographic Hebrew. That's the way Hebrew was originally written. Pictographs, like hieroglyphs. The first letter is the Aleph. It's a picture of an ox head. The second letter is the Bet, a picture of a tent. That's Hebrew. Now, what does that word mean? Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about this word itself, but just very easily, the ox represents strength. The Bet is a picture of a tent, and it represents the tent or the family. So this word literally means the tent pole. It's the strength of the tent. What holds up, when you go camping, you put up the tent poles, that's what holds up the tent. It's the strength of the house.
So the Hebrew word for father is Abba, which is the A and the B. But the A represents the male aspect and the B represents the female aspect of the goddess, her house, her abode, or her tent. Which is why the B represents the female goddess. So the tent and the pole is really the foundation of the sexual union between man and woman. So we say God our Father, but that's incorrect 100%, because actually it comes from the male and the female sexual union, giving everlasting life.
Oh, she's beautiful. She's like an angel.
Okay, I had nothing to do with that. But, you have to admit it's actually a pretty good song.
Naturally.
Notice the fertility ball dropping down. So let's take a look at some more symbolism of the Taurus sliding down the phallic pole. Let's check out the can fertility in the country of Canada, in none other than Ontario, or the Ontario, the Taurus bull, in the city of Toronto, or the Taurus bull of Toronto. And as you see, once again, we have the sexual symbology of the male and the female, the Taurus sliding up and down the pole. And you'll notice that it's sitting on a tripod, because all oracles or all crystal balls always rest on the tripod, which comes from the ancient Pythia, the oracle of Delphi. And would you believe that the diameter, or the dios, the diagonal cut or slice, the cross section, is 66.6 meters, or 666. Of course, there are 7 layers, and also the white-shaped donut underneath is known as the Ra dome, which is an antenna tower for none other than Baal. And of course, the ancient horn god is the one used for the logo or the coat of arms for Ontario. And they finished the CN Fertility Tower in 1976. And of course, there are 1,776 steps to the main deck, which is still 1776. And would you believe that the new World Trade Center 1 is going to be 1,776 feet tall? Because on May 1st in 1776, the Bavarian Illuminati was created. And then 2 months later, on July 4th, 1776, they formed the Declaration of Independence. And then we have the 7 points, or the 7 horns of the goddess, along with 1776. And would you believe that from head to toe, she stands 111 feet and 1 inch? And of course, their deity stands upon the primordial mound of the watery abyss, and the light of the torch of the underworld, the Diana Lucifera, she who bears the light. stands upon the 11 or L even pointed star. And of course, she is known as Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft and magic. Escape from New York came out in 1981, 20 years before the September 11th attacks in Manhattan, New York, on 7/11 or 9/11, September 11th, which is actually the 7th month. Septem means 7, so 9/11 is really 7/11, let alone all the 7/11 symbolism. And of course, 7/11 makes us think about Islamic terrorists. And would you believe that Escape from New York was released on the eve of 7/11? So the film takes place in none other than New York, the city of New York, in Manhattan. And remember that I discovered that Manhattan was discovered in the 1600s by Henry Hudson on September 11th, which is why we see a lot of the esoteric wisdom about the L even, the 11, the twin pillars or the two pillars of the sacred god and goddess, which is why New York is the 11th state, which is why the buildings are 110 stories or L even 11. On the second day, which is 11, on the 11th day, and of course the 111 days remaining till the end of the year. Not to mention Flight 11, and of course it goes on and on. The mysteries of the 11 or the L even. And remember, El, the bull god of the Bible, was always worshipped in ancient Cana Phoenicia as the twin pillars, the two bulls, the L even. And would you believe that the very word building means the bold house, which comes from the bull? Which is why the building of the bulls is located on the boulevard. The dualistic polar opposites of the two lanes or the two pillars of negative and positive, which comes from the black tar of the road, the black Taurus bull. And we follow the path or the road of the yellow-orange sun brick road, which is found in the mid-L, where we find reflectors, the ray of the sun and the tor of the bull. So the reflector reflects the light of Re or Ra, the sun god, the bull god. The golden red, orange sun. And orange and black represent Halloween, which is known as Samhain. It is in the mid-L of the year, or in between the beginning and the end, the Celtic New Year. You see, Halloween is known as the night of the walking dead or the living dead, which is exactly the reason that we dress up as the living dead, so that we can mix and mingle amongst them. Because this is the time of the year of the descent to the underworld.
Attention, you are now entering the debarkation area. No talking, no smoking. Follow the orange line to the processing area. The next scheduled departure to the prison is in 2 hours. You now have the option to terminate and be cremated on the premises. If you elect this option, notify the duty sergeant in your processing area.
Referring to the Royal Dutch, the House of Orange, the ones who discovered Manhattan. And September marks the harvest orange moon. And the Illuminati film, A Clockwork Orange. So you see, this is the time of the underworld known as the Ember months, as in September, October, November, and December. So September marks the beginning of fall, when things begin to die and fall. The Ember months, as in timber, like when a tree falls, we say timber. So September means 7 burn, or the ember coals of September, the 7 or the 9 burn. And the amber is sacred to witchcraft, as in the Amber Witch from 1839. And amber means the Bernstein, which means the burnt stone. And now you know why the Bernstein Bears are the color of amber. And I'm sure you're familiar with the abduction of Persephone when she goes to the underworld for half of the year, which the sun does every year. And the ember months represent this descent to the underworld. And this is why when we have an abduction, we have what's called an Amber Alert. And of course, it's the color amber. And yes, it did begin during the month of October. Believe me, there's a lot more to the Amber Alert bulletins than you could ever imagine. Since ancient times, the amber is connected with and sacred to the sun. And the amber takes its name from the Greek word for electricity, because the amber can hold an electric charge. So now you'll know why they made the film about the ember and the electricity.
And a way out of Ember.
Did you notice that it came out in October? And of course, the 8, because oct means 8. Let's listen as Bill Murray describes the underground set.
Well, we're on what I'm told is the biggest set in the world. We're in Belfast, and this set used to be part of the shipyards here. They call this the paint hall, yes? And this is where the Titanic was built. That's how big it is.
Like the Amber Room that's gone missing to the underworld.
It was an extravagance of royal proportions. A room lined from ceiling to floor in amber. A single room worth a king's ransom. For 300 years, this extraordinary room wandered the world from palace to palace, until it became the spoils of a vicious and horrific war. At last, it vanished into mystery, leaving behind only a few small tokens of its existence.
And Anbar is a town in Iraq, which means granary, a storehouse for animal feed, which is the threshed grain, like the golden rye or the golden wheat, the amber wheat. Like the harvest fertility goddess Freya, which Friday is named after. And as legend has it, the amber was created from the tears of the goddess Freya. And notice her amber burnt hair. And of course, she has the burnt orange or the amber hair.